Hi, I'm Vinay Deshpande. Welcome to the series of conversation Showing Up in Life with Vinay. Today, I'm speaking with someone who likes to climb peaks, literally in trekking as well as in career. More than 20 years in the big consultancy firm, he has climbed ladders one after the other to be the partner in the organization. I'm talking about my dear friend Sameer Shirsekar. He is joining us from San Jose, California. So let's see what he has to say. Hi,
You want me to
Sameer.
start? Hi, Vinay, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good, good. Happy to share my experiences.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. Actually, I'm also looking forward to share even though we know each other for a long time, but I think this is first time I'm talking to you at this level probably. And I'm really want to share some of my thoughts, what I really admire about you, but also looking forward to learn from them and also learn in the process your journey and how do you see the things from your perspectives.
Great. Well, let me first start by saying that I've known Vinay for a very long time, and he's doing this great job of sharing people's experiences with the people he works with. So thanks for doing that, Vinay. So uh, a quick background on myself. So as Vinay said, Sameer Shirsekar, Vinay and I both studied together in college back in India. And in 92, I graduated and then joined Arthur Anderson in Mumbai. Spent 4 years there, then moved to Pricewaterhouse, Singapore, spent 4 years there, and then finally made it to this destination, which is San Jose, California with PwC, and have been here ever since. So 20 plus years over here. And has been exciting to have all these experiences across the different countries, and I'm happy to be here to talk about more about myself.
You, that's a great journey, Samir. I've been partly witnessed this along with you, like as you say, when we were studying together, shoulder to shoulder, and then partly virtually through these kind of mediums. And what really amazes me is you've been part of this organization, in same organization for 20 odd years, which is unusual for some people because nowadays we see the trained people jumping from one organization to another organization because they want either they don't see the impact or they don't see the opportunities, whatever that could be the reasoning. I'm not saying right or wrong here, but how is your experience staying in one organization for that longer period?
Sure, I kind of ask that myself sometimes as to why am I at this organization for so long? But it's a good question, right? I think there's especially where I am right now in Silicon Valley, there's a trend of, for whether it's for compensation because people get their stock options or whatever every 4 years, they like to switch. And it kind of comes down to what you really want out of your career. And there have been various instances in these 20 plus years where I have looked at that myself and looked at, what is it that I really want? And the one unique aspect which I did not cover earlier is, so I'm a partner with PwC, right? So with partnership comes a bit of the ownership, trait that you have, and you're really building a business, you're building a portfolio, building your brand in the market, and it's really not the same job. You don't do the same job day in, day out. I'll be able to share some of my experiences in this interview, but I have been moving from, I started off my career when I first moved to San Jose doing software clients because it's basically technology over here. Then I would say around 2005, I moved on to e-commerce internet companies. And then around 2010, I moved into the platform companies, which are digital sharing platform companies, which are which were mushrooming at that time and were growing rapidly. And I took a bunch of those companies public. And then I kind of recently have moved into more fintech based companies, platform companies, and now Web3, right? So you're talking about crypto and NFTs. So it has never been static for me. It's not that I've gone, tired of doing the same job every day. And even within those same industries, there's constantly evolving trends, different clients. And what I really, really enjoy being with PwC is, helping clients, right? And I worked on absolute startup companies, which are literally, here's a shoebox of, receipts and invoices. What do we do with it? And to Fortune 500, Fortune 100 companies where they have everything buttoned up, and each of those clients has a different need, and I just enjoy working with them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking now, is there a certain virtue, personality trait, or whatever that really helped you to adapt yourself in this process?
Sure. When you know me from from a long time now, it is not easy to switch countries, switch companies, and it takes some time to every time adjust to each of those changing environments. And one of the things I will tell you is when I switched from Arthur Andersen Mumbai to PwC, actually Price Waterhouse at that time in Singapore, and then PwC San Jose, is you kind of have to set your expectations and I would say adjust your expectations, right? Because you kind of carry that baggage of saying, okay, well, I already have 4 years of experience. When I move into a new environment, you should give credit for it. And as long as you have a longer term horizon, and it's harder when you're younger in your life, you kind of always think that, hey, I'm the best thing out there, right? But if you think of longer term career, those minor adjustments that you have to do every time you switch will not matter. And that's kind of what I learned by doing those two switches. And every time I switched my industry or focus, I kind of had that as well. And from a virtue perspective, I would say it's more of being patient with the opportunities that come your way. And when the opportunities come in, just taking those opportunities, right? I think jumping into something that's new is something I've tried. I have tried to be an early adopter for a lot of instances, even in my personal life. And I just kind of try to jump in. And that's probably one of the reasons why I would say is helped me to adapt to each of these movements.
In this journey, and I'm coming from the point of view of I work with people who are going through change and really helping them navigate through change or thrive this change. So in that process, obviously, many times we have to make some of the decisions which are conscious decisions, whereas some of the change it just happened and we have no control over it. So are there any examples which were tough or challenges for you in that process?
Yeah, I'm a believer of trying to focus on things which are within your control rather than trying to focus on things which are outside of your control, right? Right. You cannot control the economy. You cannot control things which are, more macro factors, right? So what you need to deal with is you need to be very clear from a priority perspective what you are wanting from yourself. And if you know that, and it takes experience, I got to tell you every single time. So for me, one of the big changes within my career was when I made partner, right? So this was back in 2008. And there are a lot of responsibilities that come in when you take on the partner role. And you kind of move on from being someone who gets told to do something to now you being the person that gets to make the decisions. And I can give you an example when I was a new partner, and you always have ideas, right? A lot of people have ideas. And I wanted to kind of do something, which was, I forget what exactly it was, but I wanted to kind of make a change within the way we function. And I went to a more senior partner at that time. And I said, well, I so wish we could do it, this way. And I was told, well, then what's stopping you, right? You do it. There's nothing that stops you. Very often, I think, back to your question, is we kind of put these limitations on ourselves that we feel that we cannot do something, or we kind of limit our horizon. And I think the more you kind of challenge yourself to just take on something new. And I can tell you, very often it's the small things that make a difference. It's not necessarily what you're doing; it's how you're delivering or how you're communicating that makes a difference. So I would say just trying to expand your horizons and trying to make sure that don't limit your own capacity by telling yourself that you can't do it. Just do it or talk to others, and you'll always find mentors. I've found a lot of mentors within the organization, and over the years you will realize that you will become a mentor for somebody else. So that will be something that will help you in making that change.
Gem of an advice here, Samir. Um, Mentors. So, how do you actually then kind of? Did you first of all did you choose the mentor, and if yes, how do you? What qualities do you look into your mentor?
Yeah, I would say mentoring is interesting topic, right? Because people generally feel that mentor is this one individual who is that perfect individual that you go to, right? And I actually feel that mentoring is a phenomenon where it's not one person that you go to. There's different aspects that you want to change within yourself. And for each of those, you have different people. So I have various mentors. And the interesting part is sometimes when they are mentors, you don't even know that they're mentors because you may not like that person at that point in time, but then you learn and then you realize why they were acting the way they were acting, because then you understand, okay, that's a characteristic I did not have and I need to build. So I would say there were folks in my career that I dealt with where I really had some tough relationships with. And then as you kind of work with them, you realize why they were doing it that way. One of the people I interacted with, it's very easy to kind of go and ask for answers, right? So I used to go to this person and I said, hey, I have this problem. And it was a technical accounting issue that we were dealing with. And I have this problem. How do you solve it? And the person said, well, have you looked at the guidance in this place? And I said, no, I just came here to get you because you already know all of this, so you can give me the answer. And the person said, well, that's interesting. Why don't you look at that guidance and then we'll talk? And I think what that taught me is you should not necessarily always go for easy answers. You should take an effort on your part as well, because in that process, it will be a learning process. And that experience gave me another, thing that you always don't get for a shortcut, right? You have to kind of put the effort in on your end as well. So yeah, I think there are those aspects that help you along the way.
Absolutely right. And Samir, in this process, were there any moments where, as you say, it's a big change when you become partner. Now you have to take decisions. So how do you then build that confidence that, okay, I'm taking a decision. What if it goes wrong?
Yeah, everyone has to go through that. And it's not necessarily just partner, right? It could be going from an associate to senior to manager. Every time there's more responsibility put on you. And I think that's where having a support group helps. You talk to more experienced folks around you. You do your homework. You do not want to walk into a meeting without knowing who your audience is. You do not want to be in a situation where you are walking in and not having done the homework, right? Because very often first impressions can, get you to win or lose. But I think the other part of it is it just comes with experience, right? And I would tell you, part of what I'm facing right now is the pandemic has impacted a lot of people, because you learn a lot in our business by being around people. And if you're sitting by yourself in a Zoom, you're not going to get that, because you just don't get that apprenticeship that you would typically get being around people. So I was around a lot of amazing leaders. Again, they were not perfect mentors for each individual, but each of them had great characteristics I picked up from. And you learn empathy, right? So I'll tell you one example I had, which was very interesting, was I was at a particular company's, board meeting, and they had, there was something that was not right. And it is very common for somebody to say, it's not my fault. somebody else's fault. And, I kind of rolled the dice in some ways from hindsight, but I think that was the right answer. Is I kind of said, look, it may not be XYZ's fault. I take responsibility for it. And let's move on, because we need to not focus on the problem. We need to focus on the solution. And I can tell you, in that particular meeting alone, the board members were appreciative. They said, like, it's very refreshing to have someone to kind of say, hey, I take the blame and focus on the solution rather than the problem. Because very often when you start pointing fingers, it kind of shows your, hey, you don't want to take responsibility. So I think that experience early in my career showed me that you just need to empathize with your clients, put yourself in their shoes. And once you know that there's a gate that you need to cross, right? You need to basically say, hey, look, I'm here to solve the problem and come up with a solution rather than saying it's not my problem. So I think it comes with more experience, but the responsibility will basically come with the experience and the mentors around you.
And it's you who can make it happen. So by taking your own responsibility and accountability for whatever happens in there. And there are a couple of things which I have always seen in you. One is clarity. The second one is, once you decide that, okay, I'm going to do this and that, then you go wholeheartedly and do that thing, irrespective of or without really thinking about others' judgmental opinion or etc. So like clarity and non-judgmental about what others might think. And these are the two absolute gem values. And there are a lot of examples I can remember. So how did you make sure that it doesn't really you don't really get affected by others' judgments?
I don't think I can say that I'm get affected by those judgments. The question is, how do I get affected, right? Or do I want it to affect me adversely? The reality is there are very few decisions that will be unanimous in anyone's career, life, or whatever you want to say. If you have conviction in what you are doing is right, and you have done the homework to know that it's right, then I think you need to be able to follow through on. At the same time, you cannot be hard-headed, right? Because it's very easy to just say, it's my way or highway, and then just go with it. And maybe you will be able to achieve that task, but you will have pissed off so many people that nobody's going to want to work with you again, right? So it really is something where you need to first figure out what you want to do is right in your own mind. You need to get buy-in from the critical decision makers. And sometimes you don't get that buy-in because it's more like, hey, show me what you can do before I can actually trust you. And that's where I think you need to believe in yourself. And if you can prove that you can do this over and over again, I think that's how and that's basically how I've done it, right? Yes, I've made bad decisions and I've lived with it and I've taken responsibility for it. But the more risk that you take, the more you will learn how to deal with that risk. Because if you make a bad decision and you face the consequences, fine. And here in the Silicon Valley, the entrepreneurship is very common. There are a lot of companies that love to fail fast. So even if you make a bad decision, you have kind of gone all in, you've spent the money, you've decided that's wrong, and you kind of pivot to something else. It's somewhat similar, right? Where you made a informed decision, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. You take responsibility, move on. But if it does work out, that will show the doubters that, look, I always told you that was going to work out, right? And one of the things I would say is a while ago, and this was a few years ago, I was dealing with a bunch of companies who are going through IPO. And in their initial public offering, there's a whole bunch of things that need to be dealt with. And I was talking to one of my clients, and the person said, well, wouldn't it be great if we knew XYZ across all these companies? And I said, hey, you know what? Let's kind of do an informal survey, which is what I did. Right now, I would have thought, like, if I'd gone through, like, do we have resources? And I was doing it on my, evenings and weekends, and I put that together. And I didn't care about who was going to sponsor this internally or not. I just put together a bunch of folks with me to help me put that together, and that was extremely well received, right? So it's one of those things where if I was waiting for someone to give me the approval to do it, I would have never done it, and by then the moment would have gone. And that particular survey is, even to this day, we keep refreshing it, and it's extremely well received. So it's one of those things that you got to take risks and learn from those outcomes.
Absolutely. And the next step, I think, in that journey, in that process, is resilience. And I know one is part of that professional journey, but in your personal life, you are you like to go on hiking and climbing peaks and trekking it. So that's also probably is the part of building that resilience. So I just want you to tell me more about that. How does that trekking is helping you, or in your building the character you are and the resilience that you have?
Sure. Well, part of the reason why I'm hiking is because I need to kind of manage my weight. But I would say in general, in addition to giving importance to work, I do have value giving time for my own health. And we are all reaching an age where we need to take care of our health. I've had some family history that I need to manage, and it's very easy to kind of let that slide and deal with, oh, I'll deal with it when I retire, and that's not the way it needs to be done. So I realized this maybe about 10 years ago, that I need to manage it. So I've been carving out time. There are times when you just don't have the time to deal with your personal life, but I kind of I treat my own personal well-being as a client, right? So I put aside time. And now time is another excuse where everybody will say, well, I would love to do a jog every day. I would love to do this, but I don't have the time. Well, you don't have the time because you're not making the time. You can always make time. And I basically do it. I try to wake up at 5 in the morning, go to the gym every single day. There are times when I don't get to do it, but then gym gets boring after a while. So that's just why I think I put in hiking as my outdoor activity that I like to do. I have, with my buddies over here, decided to do one major hike every year. And it's kind of gives you a goal, right? Something to work towards, something to look forward to. And it's a good outdoor activity. Plus it's good for your health. And I do feel that for me, and everyone has it differently, right? Whether someone wants to do yoga or someone wants to do, I don't know, running or biking, it's that personal time that gives you time to reflect on yourself and have a lot of great ideas, which actually come when I'm doing that activity, right? Because it gives you time to reflect. And for me, hiking actually is also, trying to get to a peak, right? Trying to get to get overcome a challenge is something interesting. So that's kind of gets me going.
I know. I mean, I saw some of your pictures and they're absolutely breathtaking. So I wish you that all the best to keep reaching those peaks every year and peaks after peaks. And I really want you to see there at the top. So, and thank you so much. Thank you so much for
Welcome.
joining and sharing your experience, Samir. It is really valuable, especially the last one I'm taking away with me is treat your personal well-being as your client. And that's
Yeah,
definitely the one I'm taking with me.
sure. All the best, and hope everyone found this useful.
Thank you. Take care, Samir.
Take
See
care.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.